Hi, this is Jeffrey Shaw, live from the Springwood Studios in Brisbane, Queensland, and I'd like to welcome all our listeners on the east coast of Australia who are all on the same time zone at 7 o'clock, our good friends in New Zealand at 9 o'clock, our friends in the UK at 10 o'clock, and everybody else who is watching through these Facebook sites. You'll find there's a new little URL you can click for your time converter to see where it's playing at your time zone. In the meantime, our good friend Julia has rustled up all the way from Dreamtime, Auntie Minnie Mace, a young lady who was born in Winton, Queensland. And in this moment of time, it's sit back for me and listen into the show while the two girls get in talking women's business. Okay, over to you, Julia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a very special evening today because we have Auntie Minnie Mace, who is an Indigenous elder of the Koa people of Southeast Queensland. A cultural educator, Minnie shares stories about the Dreamtime and the first people's arrival here eons ago. So we've called the show The Kiss of the Ancestors with Auntie Minnie Mace. So welcome, Auntie Minnie.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julie.
Right. A lot of people who live overseas may know about Winton because that's where they have a lot of the fossilized dinosaur trails. There's a canyon where a lot of dinosaurs and other animals stampeded down and got bogged down, met their death. And now if you want, you can go to this great bush place and there is a museum with dinosaur bones that you can, as a volunteer, you can unscrape earth from them. And they're quite interesting. But that's all I know about Winton, but I'm hoping, Auntie Minnie, that you can tell us a little more about your mother's people.
I just came back from Winton actually a couple of days ago, and I've been going out there for about 15 years working with the dinosaur people, and they are just amazing. Stage 3 will be open in the next few weeks, and myself and some of my friends are driving out there for the big gala ball because they've just completed the 3rd stage. And the 3rd stage included taking, I don't know how many tons of rocks, but they've taken it up to the top of a jump up, which is, for those that don't know what a jump up is, I didn't till I went out there. It looks like a mini Uluru, but it's not as high as Uluru. And the Dinosaur Museum is up on the top of that. So they've taken probably 100 tons of rock from down in a creek bed with the dinosaur footprints in it and put it together. Took a couple of years to put together like a jigsaw puzzle. And that is going to be opened in the next few weeks. That 3rd stage. Dave Elliott and his wife Judy Elliott and their 2 sons have been working up there for. He used to have, Dave Elliott used to have a shop in the township of Winton, a shop window with dinosaur relics and things, but it outgrew that shop window, and hence we have the museum today that is up there.
Mm. And your mother's people obviously predated the dinosaur shop by a lot of, the butterfly dreaming, I understand, is.
Most definitely. But as the furthest date back that I've come to through 50 years of studying this is that universe. 26,640 years is one cycle for this planet, and we came here 5 cycles ago, and that was relayed from a fellow called John Green. He was the first white man into Queensland in the early 1800s, and he was a pastoralist, and he used to travel a lot for pastoral lands for his grazing, and he actually was initiated into a tribe back in 1840, him and his son. And in Tales of a Warrior, which was put out by his great-grandson he published his diaries, he kept day-to-day diaries, and he put it out that in the initiation, we came here 5 cycles ago. So I figure if you multiply 26,640-year cycle, then that's when our ancestors arrived here from a place called Madinjillingamad, which is in the 5th dimension, down here to the 3rd dimension. We came in a whirlwind or a vortex in spirit. So that'd be
and then, we just lost a connection there for about 30 seconds.
And we start at the beginning, finish. Where, towards the end?
I think you're just about to talk about how your ancestors, after the white fellow
came from dreaming.
Yeah, and then it was
from the 5th dimension.
Yeah, and it hadn't even got to that stage, yeah.
Oh, I hadn't got to that stage. Right, okay, I'll try and wing it. Well, we came from Madinjillingamad, which is in the 5th dimension, and we came in a whirlwind, and that would have been about 150,000 years ago, according to our stories and the cycles of the planet. And we came here 5 cycles ago. You know the yin and yang, right? The white, the dark teardrop, that's a universal cycle. And the dark side was 13,320 years, was universe breathing out, right? They think we come from a Big Bang theory. But in 1948, at the beginning of the age of Aquarius, the universe stopped breathing out. It's been shunting. And then on the 21st of December, it started its inward flow.
Moment. So,
and so one cycle is one breath out, one breath in.
Girls, there's an internet connection somewhere along the line there that's dropping us out.
Right.
So you start with the whirlies, and you came in, all that stuff, and then it disappeared.
Oh, okay. Am I talking too softly, do you think?
No. It's just something with the internet connection.
Yeah, I've heard all of it, but obviously if it's not coming through on the radio station. But I think Auntie Minnie Mace was saying that that it's kind of like a yin and yang, and that the earth has been shunting. Well, I'm not quite sure what the shunting means.
Well, the yin and yang is a black side and then comes into the white side. The black side was universe breathing out. It stopped in 1948 and it started inward flow on the 22nd of December. The year just passed. It'll be coming towards us. But astrologers won't announce this for at least another 10 years when they see the stars are getting closer instead of moving out from attached to the Bang Theory. So that's
okay. So 21st December last year, that was when everybody, a lot of people went down to Uluru, both in 21st December last year and in January as well.
Yes, I was there.
Was that connected?
Yes, I was there. Yeah, that's when it started coming back towards us. And we're moving into perfection. We've come out of chaos for the last 13,000 years, and now we're moving towards perfection. 13,000 years from now, we will reach perfection. Perfection is stagnation, and then it goes back to chaos again. And we came here 5 cycles ago. That's 5 breaths out and 5 breaths in, which would come to about 150,000 years ago. I was explaining this because, we haven't put a date on when we came from the dreaming. And that's my belief when we arrived here on Earth. And in our dreaming stories, Yahai, she was the spirit of the sun, and she came among our people in the 5th dimension called Madinjillingamad. She came amongst them and she had a sistrum in her hand. And when she shook the sistrum, it sent a wave of restlessness through our people. And they decided that they had figured out what was causing their restlessness. So let's catch this spirit and take that thing off her, because every time she shakes it, we feel this restlessness. So let's take it off her and go back to our peace and harmony. So they chased her all over the heavens and they pretended to chase something else, and her curiosity got the better of her and she chased them, and they outsmarted her and caught her, and she guided our ancestors down to this level of Tyre. from Maninjingamad, and that was 150,000 years ago. And we've got a beautiful history, but yeah, it needs to be put into the schools and more widely broadcast to people exactly, you know, what our story is.
Yeah, that's why we're really happy to have you on the show, Auntie Minnie Mace, because I think, you know, our show is called Dreaming the New Dream, and I think so far we've all been, certainly in Western society, taught to follow the dream of the individual dream, but, you know, with all the fragmentation, isolation, and I think it's important that we share each other's dreams, not just our own ones, but those of the ancestors, so that we can build the collective dream and vision. And I'm glad that you're saying that we're coming out of chaos, because I think most of us are fed up with it.
That's done and dusted, love. But there is a dark side of that, and that is that there is a cosmic prison up there which they're coming out of for one last chance to come through here or go down, get broken up and go down. So that's up in the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, that cosmic prison. You know, in talking...
a prism, P-R-I-S-M or P-R-I-S-O-N?
O-N, prison.
Okay, so who's they? Why, and who's coming out of a cosmic prison in the Pleiades?
Well, they misuse their influence or power or whatever here and created misery for people. And so they were put up there. When I talk about this to people, I always lead with have you ever met a reincarnated street sweeper or bus driver or window washer? And no, they're all reincarnated kings and queens and high priestesses and high priests, I said, and they possibly are, because they created misery for people here and they're up there paying penance, and they're coming back through this level, the third dimension of Taya, for one last chance to build up their spiritual strength so they can penetrate the lower heavens on our eternal journey. Okay? This is the third step on the ladder towards reaching the gates to other universes and, yeah, gaining knowledge as we go and spiritual strength.
And that third step, that's you're referring to the people who've come out of the cosmic prison. Is that everybody on Earth at the moment, or is just some the ones that are creating chaos, or how does it interact with us?
I was just talking to my best friend here this afternoon. I said there's 10% new life coming through, 15% are on the recycle wheel. I'm hoping I'm on the recycle. I didn't get a far enough run up the last time I was here, and not from the cosmic prison, because 75% here on this planet are coming from up there. And my mentor and teacher, before he passed over into the dreaming 16 years ago, he said to me that it will take 300 years for that prison to be emptied up there. So I've asked for a job on the gates when I leave here. If I don't catch them here, I'll wait for them up there.
Tell us more about your mentor, please.
My mentor, 5 years after he passed, he was being acknowledged by a lot of Egyptologists as the world's leading Egyptologist. They didn't believe him while he was alive, but he left 10 books and gave me legal copyright to them, which were in the process of getting ready for publication. And his best friend over in Egypt was Daya Abagazi. She was a woman who was Directress General of the Museum of Antiquities, and she has all these writings, and she put them in the museum over there because she was a woman in a field of, you know, predominantly male archaeologists and so forth, and she put them in there so that for the future generations, because they're all stuck on, you know, it goes back a lot further in Egypt, but they only, over there, the Egyptologists only go back about 12,000 years now. A few years ago, it was about 8,000 years. And if you read your Bible properly, it says in there that Adam and Eve were born 4,112 BC, you know, which is about 7,000 years ago. And they're finding skeletons of people that go back thousands and thousands of years before that. You know, if I was to give you the whole story, you would have to put me on a program which went for about 6 hours to give you a really good overview.
So, yeah, it sounds like you've really researched and investigated that a lot. What draws you to, you know, I mean, we're out here in Australia and you're talking about Egypt and history of ancient civilization. What draws your interest in that?
Well, I was a pretty radical person years ago, and I met my mentor, Raymond Johnson, who translated the 350 hieroglyphs which are down at Carryong at Woy Woy Road near Gosford. There's 350 hieroglyphs down there carved in the rocks, and they go back to Pharaoh Khufu. And the Egyptians were coming here. I don't talk about anything unless I have the evidence to prove what I'm talking about. And these hieroglyphs are down there, and Ray translated them about 40 years ago. Okay, that's when I was first with Ray, and he translated them. And it's a story of about two of the sons of King Khufu. And one son was Neferjeseb. He was being primed for the military. Old Khufu had 125 children, apparently. So he's a busy old fella. And his brother, Neferu, he was being primed for the priesthood. Now, Imhotep brought them out here on a voyage. Neferu stowed away. He wasn't allowed to go on the voyage, but Neferjeseb was. And they had a base on Kangaroo Island, and they were coming up the east coast to get the gold from Gympie. Only last year they perfected a machine where they can tell at airports if gold is smuggled in, they can tell where that gold was mined. And they tested it on King Tut, Tutankhamun. They tested it on his gold mask, the gold, and it was mined at Gympie. I only heard that news report. Yeah, I only heard that news.
Wow.
I only heard that news report once. Now, over in the Kimberleys, you have the Wanginas, the cave paintings. There's one there. Yeah, there's one there. I've got a photo. Could you get me that blue book off the books down? Yeah. There's a photo there of, there's a painting. This guy called George Gray, he went through Western Australia between 1827 and 1829, 37, and 39, and he documented all the flora and fauna and all the cave paintings in Western Australia and put them into 2 volumes of books. Now, that was good because mining companies have blown up about 2/3 of those rock paintings over there in Western Australia. Is that the blue one? Yeah, I think it's about 212, eh?
Yes.
If I may. And above the head of one of the Wanginas over there, which is apparently 10.5 foot tall, it's got in ancient Phoenician writing. Can you see that? Oh.
Just a bit more to the centre. Yep, and up. Yep. Just a bit more up, please.
Yeah, and across the top here, that's ancient Phoenician writing, and it reads Khepera. And Ra Khepera came here 11,000 years ago, and when they opened his tomb in Egypt 80 years ago, they found kangaroo skins and boomerangs in his tomb. And the story of his travels to the land of the 2 southern islands, because there was a big inland sea that came down from the Gulf of Carpentaria. And my oldest daughter, she lives over in Western Australia. Her and her husband have been managing cattle stations for a lot of years now, and her and her husband were coming across Central Australia to the Territory Queensland border to look after this property for 3 or 4 months. And she rang me late afternoon. They hadn't arrived at the station. And she said, Mum, we passed a ridge out here on the Queensland Territory border, and there's a pyramid on top of it, and it's too perfect to be a natural formation. And then she rang me back about 2 days later, and she said, Mum, I found a 1800s map at the homestead out here, and it's the name of that ridge we passed with the pyramid on top. It's called Khepera Ridge.
Whoa.
So the first time Khepera came here, they were going up, the Phoenicians, they were the sea voyagers, and they were taking him on the trade routes to China. and they got damaged at sea. And down the side of that Wandjina that I just held up, it's got all these circles down the side. And Ray said that if they were full moons, they would have been shipwrecked here for 4.5 years. Okay? And yeah, the rest is history, which is, you know, goes back long before Adam and Eve appeared on the planet.
So go back to the caves, because they're talking about the two sons, one's military, one's priest. The priest's son dies. He dies of a snake bite, don't he? And so the story tells he actually dies.
Neferu.
It's on the basis that, if I'm not mistaken, they give the astrological sign. So if there's a time when they can do time travel, they'll go back to that particular time and save that guy's life. Is that my understanding of the story?
Yeah, I think that's a later dating than Kapira. That would have only been about between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So are there any equivalent stories? I mean, that's obviously from the Egyptian side, the traces of Egyptian and Phoenician traders coming here. On the local First Nation people, are there any stories of interaction with the Egyptians that you're aware of, or that you think might match that story?
There's a whole dictionary that Ray Johnson put together in hieroglyphs, and it's all throughout our languages. I've been looking into that and the languages, you know, like Kui, right? How people travel between their countries, you know, when the living got really hard, they would stand on the boundary of the next tribal land they need one across, and they'd go Kui, and they would send someone from the tribe to escort them across their lands, you know, however many people it would be, because food was very scarce and they didn't need them coming over their borders. They respected each other's boundaries and they got guided over their boundaries. Now, I found that that was the first, that's what started me looking further and deeper into it, because Kui is spelled in our language, C-O-O-C-O-O-E-E, Kui, and it means to protect in Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal. But the Egyptians also have a word which means to protect, and that's spelled Khuwi, pronounced Kui, but in the translation of the Egyptian, it's got the same sound value but not the same spelling.
True. Okay.
Wow. So that was the starting point. Where did that sort of, you know, looking at the similarities or interconnectedness, where have you, you know, what else have you uncovered or discovered?
Oh, heaps and heaps and heaps of knowledge. You know, our history, you know, it needs to be put into the education system because it goes back thousands of years. You know, instead of starting when Captain Jimmy Cook landed in Sydney, you know, in Botany Bay, the Australian history starts then. You know, it doesn't start then; it goes back thousands of years, and it needs to be put into the education system, because I believe that Australia is going to lead this planet into the next, you know, the next millennium, and that all the tribes of the earth have been gathered here. Bayami, our spirit father, you know, before Captain Cook arrived, he looked around the planet, and this is agreed upon by a lot of elders, that he looked around the planet and he saw the great benefits that mankind had bestowed upon themselves and said, it's time our people shall share in these great benefits. And they blew the ships of the strangers to our shore, and with it, they brought all these wonderful things that has built this country up, you know. And if we ever get this reconciliation thing right, with all the different peoples around the planet and nations all coming from this country, you know, it'll be a pretty nice place to be in the new world that's coming.
Absolutely, yeah. Let me just explain for our overseas international listeners the reason that we mentioned Captain Cook and the fact that the Indigenous were here before is because when the British took over, they declared Australia as being terra nullius, which means earth that was not, well, land that was not populated at that point in time. And as we're hearing from Auntie Minnie Mace, it was not just populated, but they were already trading and building, and they had a long history way before that. So that premise on which the British took over the country was incorrect, and that needs to be recognised in children's schools. Is that right?
Yeah. Sorry, they're very distracting, the questions coming up on the screen.
All right. Yeah, we should say hi to Leanne and Elizabeth and Helen and Chris.
Leanne Phillips. What was that? I just got the beginning and it dropped out before I read it all. But yeah, she said there's not enough hours in the day to listen to what Auntie Minnie's got to talk about. Yeah, she's a wonderful lady. She's on a board of directors for an Aboriginal organisation in the Glasshouse Mountains called Nungina. And she is the mother of our 5 brothers, 5 spirit fathers, who are, Biami is the leader. His name means high up. Anyway, that's his title, high up or overall. Munganor, he's giant goanna, he's water totem, he's in southwestern Australia. Korora, he's earth totem, he's bandicoot. Bunjil is eaglehawk, he's in the Grampian Mountains. And Nurulai, he's possum. Nocturnal animal is the spirit or fire totem. He's across from Western Australia, across the top of Australia. And they're the 5 spirit fathers. And their parents stayed in the spirit world, Nungina and Napeli. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story, the Dreamtime stories that give me more peace in my heart and pride of my Aboriginality, because, Jesus just doesn't do it for me, and we should be getting back to our Dreamtime stories, and that they hand it down in the form of dance and song, and we need to put it into the schools, the education system, for everybody to learn so they can understand us. And a lot of our people with angry, and they don't want to be angry, but they just aren't being heard or understood, and we could possibly get this reconciliation thing up and running, grow at legs.
So at the beginning of that, you talked about reincarnation, the recycling and all that stuff. So how many souls have actually gone and clothed themselves in a black body, and how many of those have gone and cloaked themselves on a white body, and interchanged over the eons of time? And yet that seems to be a bit of a hamstring in terms of both cultures understanding that principle at work. Because I remember Scotty up there in the Kimberleys.
We're frozen in time. We're frozen. Culture is an outward expression of our inner spiritual growth. It's manifest culture, but spiritual growth needs to be addressed too. We've dropped out.
No, I think he's still thinking about that one.
Oh, right.
It's so profound, but or Jeff, maybe Jeff has, if he's coming back in again.
I think he's gone home. Oh no, there he is.
I'm not too sure what's actually going on, girls.
Okay, I will just answer your questions, Julia. I won't go off in tangents because we might lose our friend Jeff.
No, that's okay. So we've got Henriette coming in and commenting, the whole world most definitely needs to look to Australia. Your ancestors are very present in my dreams. The dream time is present. Oh, absolutely. Happy to listen to your wisdom, Auntie Minnie Mace. And I think that is why the whole world does look to your ancestors, because they know how to, cross the veil and work with the veil, work with the ancestors. We call it the kiss of the ancestors, and the butterfly dreaming story that you've basically shared with the rest of us. I think that's what I think we all need to know, that we can drop out of that role of being in a black skin or in a white skin and know that we have that quantum base in common.
Well, can I explain to you how that came about, that butterfly dreaming? I got invited by Griffith University to go out to Winton, where they have the film school, And I thought I was going out there to talk to Griffith film students, but when I got out there was 14 from the United Kingdom. They came from all around the planet, Singapore, Hong Kong, India, and it was just amazing. And these girls took me outside of the town area in Winton with all this recording gear in the back of a van. And I'm talking away because they're recording me. But when I finished talking, they said, oh, we haven't got it set up yet. So I'm sitting there and they said, right, we're ready, Auntie Minnie, start talking. And I said, well, I've got to wait for a sign. And I sat there and these two whirlywinds went across the road about 50 yards ahead of the van we're sitting in on a dirt road. They wanted to go out of town for less sound to interfere with the recording. And then 4 parrots flew down and sat on a branch about 3 feet from the windscreen of the car and looked at me. I said, okay, I've got my sign. And I just started talking. I didn't form the thoughts to then verbalise them. It just came through me like channeling. I actually understood what channeling was all about. And that was the background for the story of Butterfly Dreaming.
That's a wonderful story. Let's play it.
Thank you. You know watch it? You seen it?
They're going? Oh. Oh, okay. It's going up. Sorry.
Oh, it might be doing an advert first.
No. They're doing the ad. No, hang on a sec. I'm not too sure what happened there because. I think it changed.
And Auntie Minnie, do the ancestors, my grandmother pops in on me occasionally, and some of the aunts, I can kind of just feel them in the background, just reassuring me. Do you sort of have regular interaction with them, with yours?
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful feeling. Like I was a real wild child in my teenage years, and from the time I met Ray Johnson in 78, I never had another drink of alcohol, never had another smoke of marijuana, and I can't remember I wouldn't get out of bed unless I was smoking marijuana to get out of bed from, when I was in my early 20s and late teens, and it just all stopped. We came in spirit. And from spirit we manifested into physical form. That's one word per beat, which has never been heard before. Really. Cool. Oh, there's having issues.
It has to be his connection because you and Julia haven't dropped.
What a lovely person that Julia is. She's got lovely.
Yeah, I think we're still on the show. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened. We're still here.
You're breaking the matrix.
Form the mountains and the trees and the rivers and the creeks. And after his journey, he rested in a cocoon. And that cocoon helped him strengthen his spirit, which is pure light. And from that, he evolved into the butterfly. And the wings are his reward. And the wings take him back to his heavenly home. And that is the Koa dreaming of the Indigenous people, of my ancestors from this country. It's called a kiss from the ancestors, and keeping it supremely simple.
Very
There you
good.
go. Kids from the ancestors.
Those students, they were in their 20s and you know, when I saw it at the last day when they put all these films together over a 2-week period, they came in from all over the world, and you know, it just blew me away how talented they are, you know, and they're our future. This, you know, when you work in amongst sort of alcohol and drug rehabilitation, and you see that, you know, the people just so down, and then to go amongst these students who are only in their 20s and they were the master class. They come here to Australia every year, but for last year they couldn't come because of COVID. But they'll have a different graduating class every year. And I've been booked up till the end of my birth walk to go out there and talk to them and inspire them and make some more films. My brother Michael, he does the film and I do the animation students. And I'm doing a big mural out there for the university, and I'm rounding up some of my other family members to go out there and make their mark on the walls. It's going to be a long, long mural covering the wall of the picture theatre all the way down the street. It's a pretty big project.
Oh, very good.
That's beautiful. And you're also involved in other community projects, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm part of the clean-up gang. I tell people there's 2 types of people on this planet. There is the gang getting cleaned up and the gang cleaning them up.
And how do you know which one is which? Like, they're not wearing the stripes.
And I've asked for a job on the gates when I leave here, because if I miss any of them here, I'll get them when they get up there. And I'm deadly serious. They think I'm joking.
But what's the worst thing you can do? You can only send them back to Earth prison, right?
Oh, yeah, but don't pass go, don't collect 200. But, yeah, this time they've only got one last chance to make it into the heavens, the beginning of this new cycle. And if they don't make it through this time, they're empty in the cosmic prison, because in 13,000 years, this planet will reach perfection. And perfection being stagnation, it all goes back to chaos again. So, yeah, if they don't make it through this time, they won't get another chance or another run-up, so to speak.
Oh, 13,000 years is a bit hard for me to wrap my head around. If we go back to the dreaming, and as you said, that, you know, with the history that we've had, and you said yourself, you know, working with people who have been on drugs and or on alcohol and who've kind of lost their way, maybe the spiritual refugees and the disenfranchised. What is the dreaming that we can share that will bind us together?
The dreaming is to help somebody, you know, help a complete stranger. You know, it doesn't have to cost you money. It's just a courteous act, and it actually changes people's perception. You know, it takes so little to give a kindness, and so much so much energy goes into being outraged, you know, for things beyond their control. But we need a little kindness in the equation, and that will get us there. Yeah.
Yeah, those are very wise words.
We've been here 150,000 years, you know, and yeah, I suspect they sent, you know, the rest, people from every planet. It's like Noah's Ark. They brought them all here because we have the recipe, our dreaming. Our elders out at Uluru, you know, all the knowledge and wisdom has gone out, but nobody was listening. Oh, they're on the move again.
And And now a lot of people are coming to Uluru, the young ones, to learn. And, I have friends who come from America, Germans have come from Peru, sort of people from all over the world are coming to Uluru to learn from you. But I know that some of them sort of turn up, but then they don't really know where to go to meet with Indigenous or to get that training. Can you give any advice to them if they're interested in learning your people's ways?
The probably the best and the strongest Aboriginal male elder to come out of Uluru would be Bob Randall. And he passed, he's in the grandstand seats now, and I've got his wife sitting at the table here with me. She has all his teachings recorded, she has his films, and Kanyini, did I say that right? Kanyini, and she's putting his works into publication because he has a message that everybody can understand. He talks plainly and simply, and he was such a humble man, and he earned his reward and joined the Ancestors a few years ago, but his wife is carrying on his work, and she's a pocket rocket. She stands about 5 feet tall, but amazing woman, American woman. And she captured his heart. And yeah, that's going to be, we're coming out.
That's they should look up Kanyini and Uncle Bob Randall. I've seen videos of him talking, and I agree with you. He's got that timeless, simple, elegant wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
And then can I ask you about Uluru itself? Some people say that, if you looked at the world in terms of nodes and important earth crossings and things like, does Uluru itself, in your Dreamtime stories, what is its role?
Oh, it's a portal. There's a portal there. I had a Swami here a couple of months ago rather. He stays in communication. He got stuck here with COVID. And he was telling me the story of one of their spiritual leaders from hundreds of years ago that they've been out to Uluru a few times over the years, and he's in that portal out there at Uluru. And they have photos of him. And song lines, okay, this planet has a harmonic grid, and we call them song lines. The white tribes called them ley lines. The red tribes called them dragon lines. And they make up the harmonic grid that circles this planet. And the whales follow those song lines, and the birds as well. And it moves, and it's moving. And, from Uluru to Mount Biawar up in the Glasshouse Mountains, and our spirit father, Biami, the story of the glass house is that Biami lived on top of Mount Biawar. He was the leader of the four brothers, and Beniwa, high up or over all, was his title. And there's a song line directly from Uluru to Mount Biawar in the glass house. And when the 21st of December, there was over 100 people gathered at Mount Biawar because they were in direct connection to Uluru on the song line. Our people sent messages on song lines the way we send messages on the telephone today.
Oh.
But Mountain Bear was for women's business, isn't it?
Yeah, that's women's business. That is Mount Biawar. But Mount Tibragargan, which should have been called Gibrakargan, because the men, they gathered over at the Gibrakargan. Gibra was flying possum. Kargan was the claw marks on the trees. And the men gathered over there when they came for their triannual Bunyinut festival. They called it Bonyi. And the Great Divide, or the mountain range that runs up there, that was called Bonyi Mountains, and it was covered with bunyinut trees, which they cut down to build the city of Brisbane back in the 1800s, and got rid of all the bunyinut trees. And the tribes would gather and be up there for, up to 3 and 4, 5 months, and they would exchange. The black palm wood from the north made the best spears, the strongest wood. Yeah. And they would bring, things from the different areas where you couldn't access it, until they were up on the mountains and had that big exchange and feasted on the bunya nuts. And so Mount Biwa, that was Biami's home up there. He lived with his 2 wives, Biraganulu and Kananbila. And he would travel in a cave. He would go enter a cave at the base of Mount Biwa, and he would travel up 2/3 of the way to the top where the 2 caves were that his 2 wives lived. And he would come out near the top from walking up the middle of the mountain, and it was a short walk to the caves. Now, I used to sit up there. There's a women's side up there, Indigenous, and I used to think, how on earth would he walk up inside his mountain, because a fire stick to see where he's going would only smoke himself out. And then I went out with a friend of mine out the other side of Ipswich, took some kids for a swim, and he's full blood. And he came back with these 2 rocks, and he was showing the kids how one rock was quartz crystal, another was a brownstone, and he showed these kids rubbing them together. That quartz crystal rock lit up like a light bulb. And the first person to climb Mount Biwa back in the 1800s, they talk about finding over 100 quartz crystal rocks in one of the caves up there. And I thought, so that's how he did it. He, had that quartz crystal rock, and they were found up there in the 1800s, and he had his own light bulbs to find his way. Pretty clever, hey?
And he had to go underground because the other missus would have got cross?
Well, it was easy to walk up in the middle of the mountain and climb up the outside and probably fall off the mountain, He had
It's a very steep mountain.
And she's the mother mountain, and she's pregnant. And the legend goes that she's still pregnant, for it takes many, many years to give birth to a mountain. So
it does.
I
think the New Zealanders have actually worked out how long it takes because even rocks have their life cycles. I was reading it down in Omar, and it was just amazing. But coming back to Uluru, you were in Uluru around 21st December itself, and you said it's a portal. Where does it lead to? What was your experience? I want personal experiences. If you aren't shy.
Well, Barbara Randall and I, they had 4 buses out there for us, and they all went out to, I don't know where, but every time they announced where they were going, all of a sudden it was locked up, like Mutijulu, it's locked up. They're going out to the national park, it's locked up. Barbara and I went across the road to the caravan park, to a hill at the back of there, and we could see Uluru clearly in the distance in front of us. And behind us, at the rear, was the moon, and yet there was this spotlight coming out of the clouds above our head, which I took photos of. It was there for hours. It was, and up at Mount Biwa, my friend up there, Dinawa, she had over 100 people gather up there, and there were these lights. There was all these lights that came up on top of Mount Biwa, and there was about 4 or 5 of them circling around the mountain. They took photos of them. It was amazing. And I think they travelled from there through the songline out to Uluru. They came for the show.
What, when you say lights, spotlights, you're talking?
UFOs.
Are you talking
UFOs?
Sorry, UFOs. That's what I thought you said. And which planet do you reckon they would be from? Did they identify? Did they fly a flag and go, "Oh, we're from this one"?
Yeah, well, they gathered there for the alignment, but it was bigger than just an alignment. It was universe coming out of shunt mode and coming back towards us. And when they do realise this, they're all going to freak out, because they'll think the world's coming to an end, but it's not, because in 13,000 it'll stop and then it'll breathe out again. But the scientists haven't caught up with the Egyptian knowledge. And, there's a new wave coming, a new wave of knowledge.
Because energetically, if things are contracting, does that mean we have more access to realms that were beyond our reach before?
Yeah. Indigenous people, and especially those that live out in traditional way a lot, they just laugh all the time at how crazy that people are, you know. They have the knowledge and its simplicity, and yet they don't understand it, you know. And if, you know, they listen to our elders, you know, the ones that I grew up learning from, it's a whole other world, you know. It's just so, it's so basic and it's so logical and it's so enlightening. You know, academia just, it gives me a headache, you know, trying to penetrate some of their knowledge they're putting together. They, as far as I'm concerned, they're farting in splendid isolation. And it doesn't go out, you know, it's not a shared knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge needs to be shared. And I think the one thing that I keep on coming back to is that, you know, when I was a child, my mother would sing lullabies to me. And when I had my daughters, I would start singing exactly the same lullabies to them. And I met a friend, and he actually was hypnotized in order to remember the lullaby that his grandmother used to sing to him. And she was Welsh, but he couldn't remember the words because it was in Welsh and it was quite complicated. So he actually got hypnotized to remember it, and then he wrote the whole thing down.
Wow,
and tracked it down, and it turned out to be the family history.
That's beautiful.
Which bloodline was linked to which bloodline, what they'd done, etc. When I think of, you know, the Dreamtime stories, I kind of think that that's probably also the lullabies that are being passed on, so that people don't forget, generations don't forget that knowledge will one day unlock, and everyone will understand what it stands for.
Because they kept it supremely simple, you know. It's kids today, it's like video games and all of that kind of thing. And, you know, a lot of my friends, they won't let their children, you know, near those sort of things. And, yeah, those children have got more contentment within them than kids that are on these you know, computer games and all that sort of thing. It's, yeah, growing up in the 50s and 60s, it gave me a wonderful grounding. You know, I got no regrets of anything I haven't done by the time I leave here. I've had a beautiful, beautiful lot of teachers on the way through, aunts and elders, and because in my early years, it was children are seen and not heard.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And that was the case, then you learnt more, you know. But must be the abyss up there in the Pleiades opening, and all those people down here that are kings and queens and they're not happy, not satisfied, coming through again, but they got to get one last chance. It's been wonderful talking to you two. We haven't got much longer. Is there something specific that you've always wanted to know about or would like to know about?
Jeff from the audience, now is your time.
All right.
No, I'm good. Throughout the whole night, we've had dropouts.
Yeah.
And our speeds have been quite amazing. Like we're 180 megabytes per second. But for some unknown reason...
It's our friends upstairs.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that's what's actually happened. But because it's normally just runs as perfect. Right then, so you're currently living in Queensland. You're currently living on the Sunshine Coast of Bribie Island. You do go out and teach around southeast Queensland, and obviously you go out to Winton, and obviously you've been doing the pilgrimage out to Uluru. So on your Facebook site, it's really more personal rather than as a business page. But how would people find out where you'd be teaching or doing a workshop or welcome to country? How would they find that out?
I received a letter about 20 years ago. It had Minnie Mace, Bribie Island, Australia, and I received that letter. You know, where I live on Bribie Island, it's on the ocean side, there was 9,000 people when I came here. Today there's 35,000 people, and they've got it capped at 69,000 people. So if somebody wanted to find me, all they have to do is ask any of the business people at the shopping centre down the street, where can I find Minnie? And they will point out my house. It's a very small place.
That's why you've constantly got visitors. That's like...
Yeah, but I think the ancestors sort them out before they come over the bridge, actually. I've been going into schools, high schools. I've taken all the high schools around here, all the state schools. I've been taking them on cultural tours around the Glasshouse Mountains, 3 or 4 bus loads. I've been doing that for over 35 years. I even took a fellow called Cryon, came from America. He channels the Cryon, and I took 4 bus loads with him around the Glasshouse Mountains, and when we got up to the top of looking down on the glass house, he threw me in the deep end, gave me the microphone and said to talk for 5 minutes, and then he disappeared outside, didn't come back. And I was still talking, waiting for him, waving the microphone at him, and he'd just give me a sign to, keep talking, keep talking. And one woman asked me, she said, Minnie, do you and your people, do you still eat your traditional food? I wanted to say something, sarcastic, but I couldn't. I said, of course we do, love. We still eat our traditional food, especially between pension days when money runs out. Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, you've lived not just in Queensland. You've gone down to Sydney. You've done, you've actually moved in the artistic circles and worked in the big smoke, as you say it, and worked in a bar and a nightclub and everything. You've had a very colourful life and been around the block quite a bit, haven't you? Yeah,
and I'm still surviving. What's that old saying? Only the good die young. I've probably lived 120.
That's it. That's great. Well, thank you very much, Auntie Minnie, for coming on the show. I think if you're listening from internationally, Jeff has put up Auntie Minnie Mace's Facebook site, so you could message her through there.
I don't go on Facebook very often these days, not as much as I used to, probably once or twice a month, but I check them regularly. And
there you go.
It's hard. It was hard to stay off Facebook, but once I got off it and I'd come back on, when I came home from Uluru and I had 50 requests for friendship coming in a week, that's a long way to spread yourself thin. And, so I'm just enjoying my grandchildren at the moment and my friends and just,
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the show, and we look forward to having you back once you publish the books about all the Egyptian research that you've been doing.
Oh, thank you very, very much, because, that's, I always wondered. I said to this just on finishing, I asked this old tribal man from Uluru in Tasmania about 19 years ago. He came up to me and he said, Minnie, and I looked at him because I didn't know he knew my name, and he was there with a lot of women. He said, I went to Bible school, me in Darwin, for 5 years. I said, wow, you're the fellow I've been looking for. He said, why for you been looking at me? I said, well, I want to know if Adam and Eve had a belly button. And he said, ooh, wow. I said, ooh, wow, all right. He said, oh, you speak Pidginjara. I said, no, is ooh, wow, Pidginjara word? He said, yeah. I said, what does it mean? He said, it means if it's good, and if it's bad, it's good.
Oh, wow.
You think about what a wise man he was.
Why did you want to know whether Adam and Eve had a belly button?
Because I couldn't believe I couldn't believe, if they were the first man and woman to walk on earth, then they couldn't have had a belly button.
Yep. It's not a chicken and egg story, okay?
Oh, well, thanks again, Julia.
Thank you very much, Auntie Minnie Mace, for joining us.
Really warm talking to you.
Beautiful.
Good night, Anne Phillips. I had to say that. She's a beautiful woman. She does a lot for
thank you to yeah, great. And thank you to all our other listeners, Barbara and Henriette, Tammy, Elizabeth, Helen, Krista, and all the listeners who will be coming onto the show in the future. Let's dream the dream together and get out of this prison.
Wow, yeah. I'd like to hear your theories down the road. Good night.
It's like that song, isn't it? Last train out of Sydney, isn't
it? Thanks very much, Jeff. You're a very patient man. You'd have to be in that job, hey?
Oh, I can't believe how the Indians are playing up at such high speeds. Hey, next week we've got a really interesting Aussie, and he reads flowers.
Wow.
Tell me more. Yeah.
Flower people, flower power. That was in the 60s, flower power.
Yeah, well, if we're having a great connection with spirit, one of the things you can use is flowers or bird feathers, because you get a real strong connection with the other realm.
Really? Wow. You never stop learning, hey? Are you frozen on me this long?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. So good night, everyone. And yes, next week we have David Laws, who is a full-time flower reader and brings through messages from from spirit to people. And so we look forward to rejoining you on Thursday.
Wow. Flower power. Thank you very much. I shall listen in next day.
Great. All right. Good night, Auntie Minnie Mace. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Julia.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.